They weren't just snacks, they were moments. A Twinkie tucked into a school lunchbox. The crunch of Doritos echoing through a summer sleepover. A frosty Jell-O pudding pop on a sweltering afternoon. Or that first sip of Crystal Pepsi, when the future felt just a little closer than we imagined. For decades, America's favorite junk foods shaped our childhoods, our cravings, and even our culture. But just like fashion trends and radio hits, not all of them lasted forever. Some faded away quietly, while others disappeared in a storm of controversy. And yet, each one tells us something about the changing tastes and the changing times of America itself. So tonight, we look back at 5 junk food icons, the rise that made them unforgettable and the fall that left them behind. This is the America we remember. Few snacks are as instantly recognizable as the golden sponge cake with a creamy filling, the Twinkie. For decades, it wasn't just a treat. It was an American icon. Twinkies were first created in 1930 by James Dewar, a baker at the Continental Baking Company. Originally filled with banana cream, shortages during World War II forced a switch to vanilla filling, which ended up sticking permanently. Over time, Twinkies became synonymous with indulgence and convenience, a staple of school lunchboxes, road trips, and vending machines. By the 1950s and 60s, they weren't just food, they were a cultural touchstone, appearing in commercials, pop culture references, and even political jokes. Twinkies mattered because they represented more than sugar and cream. They captured America's fascination with convenience foods, shelf-stable, individually wrapped, and affordable. For working parents, Twinkies were an easy way to give kids a treat. For children, they were a golden ticket of sweetness. By the late 20th century, they were selling hundreds of millions annually, and the snack that would never die was cemented as a part of American life. But that immortality became a point of controversy. Twinkies were criticized for their lack of nutritional value, becoming the poster child for America's junk food problem. Health experts warned against their high sugar and fat content, while comedians mocked their supposedly endless shelf life. In 2012, Hostess, the company behind Twinkies, declared bankruptcy, and for a moment, it seemed the treat was gone forever. Shelves were emptied, fans hoarded boxes, and panic spread, all for a snack cake. Though Twinkies eventually returned under new ownership, their fall from grace highlighted just how much America's relationship with food had changed. But while Twinkies symbolized the height of indulgence, another American favorite rose for a very different reason. A wobbly, colorful dessert that once graced nearly every family dinner table. For much of the 20th century, no family gathering felt complete without one dish that shimmered and jiggled: Jell-O. But how did this colorful dessert go from America's sweetheart to a food punchline? Jell-O was first patented in 1897, but it wasn't until the early 20th century that it gained national fame. Its rise was fueled by clever marketing campaigns, recipe booklets, and endorsements that positioned it as modern, convenient, and even sophisticated. By the 1950s and 60s, Jell-O wasn't just dessert. It became a canvas for homemakers. Recipes layered fruits, marshmallows, vegetables, and even meats inside gelatin molds. These towering creations were centerpieces at potlucks, holidays, and Sunday dinners, symbolizing both creativity and hospitality. Jell-O mattered because it reflected the spirit of mid-century America: efficiency, innovation, and presentation. It was cheap, easy to make, and versatile, which made it appealing during the Great Depression and wartime rationing. By the post-war era, it symbolized prosperity, a treat that could be endlessly customized. Its slogan, "There's always room for Jell-O," wasn't just advertising. It was truth in households across the nation. But tastes changed. By the 1970s and 80s, Americans grew more health-conscious, and gelatin salads filled with mayonnaise, meats, or canned vegetables began to feel dated, even unappetizing. Younger generations mocked the wobbly molds their parents once prized, and what had once been cutting-edge convenience became kitschy nostalgia. Though Jell-O remains on shelves today, its cultural reign is long over, remembered less for its flavor and more for the quirky place it once held at America's table. And while Jell-O's fall came from changing tastes, another favorite junk food disappeared for a simpler reason: demand for it just rolled away. Few things felt more exciting than unwrapping a shiny foil package to reveal a perfectly swirled chocolate roll. For decades, HoHos were more than just a snack cake. They were a childhood treasure. Hostess first introduced HoHos in 1967, modeled after popular Swiss roll-style cakes. They featured chocolate sponge cake rolled with creamy filling and coated in a rich chocolate shell. Compact, portable, and indulgent, HoHos quickly became a lunchbox favorite and a staple in vending machines across the country. Advertisements often emphasized fun and indulgence, targeting children and teenagers who saw the treat as a little escape in the middle of the school day. HoHos stood out because of their design. The spiral pattern inside made them visually unique compared to other snack cakes. They were sweet, affordable, and available everywhere, making them a go-to choice for parents on the move and kids looking for something special. By the 70s and 80s, HoHos were cemented in the cultural landscape, often appearing alongside other Hostess treats like ding-dongs and cupcakes as symbols of carefree snacking. But over time, changing health trends and declining sales spelled trouble. By the early 2000s, as Americans became more aware of sugar, fat, and processed foods, HoHos began to lose their charm. When Hostess filed for bankruptcy in 2012, HoHos vanished along with Twinkies, sparking a wave of nostalgia and panic buying. Though eventually revived under new ownership, their cultural relevance never fully returned. What was once a symbol of carefree childhood indulgence became a bittersweet reminder of how much America's tastes and priorities had shifted. And while HoHos faded away quietly, another junk food exploded, quite literally, onto the American scene before vanishing just as fast. In the 1970s, a new candy appeared that didn't just melt in your mouth. It popped, fizzed, and exploded like fireworks on your tongue. Pop Rocks weren't just candy. They were a full-blown experience. Pop Rocks were invented in 1956 by chemist William Mitchell, the same man behind Tang and Cool Whip. But it wasn't until 1975 that they finally hit store shelves. The candy was made by trapping carbon dioxide bubbles inside sugar crystals, creating a crackling, popping sensation when eaten. Kids were instantly hooked. It was unlike anything they'd ever tasted before, a candy that turned eating into entertainment. Pop Rocks became one of the biggest candy fads of the decade, spreading quickly through playgrounds and corner stores. The appeal was obvious. Pop Rocks weren't just sweet, they were interactive. Every bite came with a fizzing sound and a burst of surprise. For children of the 70s, it felt like candy from the future. The marketing capitalized on that sense of wonder, presenting Pop Rocks as magical, fun, and unlike anything else in the candy aisle. They became a defining treat of the era, remembered fondly by those who grew up during the craze. But their downfall came as fast as their rise. Rumors spread that mixing Pop Rocks with soda could cause your stomach to explode, a myth so widespread it made national headlines. Parents panicked, sales plummeted, and by the 1980s, Pop Rocks were pulled from most store shelves. Though the candy has made occasional comebacks, it never regained its former glory. What started as a revolutionary snack ended as one of America's strangest food legends, a victim of playground gossip and parental fear. And while Pop Rocks fizzled out amid controversy, another product promised to reinvent soda itself, only to vanish almost as quickly as it appeared. In the early 1990s, Pepsi unveiled a drink that looked like water but promised the same sweet cola taste. It was called Crystal Pepsi, and for a brief, shining moment, it felt like the future of soda had arrived. Crystal Pepsi debuted in 1992 during a wave of purity marketing that swept across food and beverage industries. Fat-free, caffeine-free, sugar-conscious products were filling store shelves, and Pepsi wanted in. Their idea? A clear cola that symbolized health, purity, and a fresh start for the 90s generation. Commercials featuring Van Halen's Right Now blasted across televisions, telling consumers this was the soda for a bold new era. At first, people were curious. The bottles flew off shelves simply because everyone wanted to try the clear cola that looked nothing like Pepsi but carried its name. For a short while, Crystal Pepsi became a cultural icon. It captured the optimism of the 90s, sleek, futuristic, and different. People wanted to believe it was a cleaner cola, even if it really wasn't. Kids begged their parents to buy it. Adults tried it out of curiosity, and for a few months, it was one of the hottest drinks in America. But when the novelty wore off, reality set in. Consumers quickly realized Crystal Pepsi didn't taste quite like regular Pepsi, or really like any cola they loved. It was too unfamiliar to become a habit, and too odd to replace the original. Within a year, sales tanked, and Pepsi pulled the product. Though Crystal Pepsi has been brought back in limited runs for nostalgia's sake, its original downfall remains one of the most famous product flops in American history. It became a symbol of how quickly hype can fade, leaving only memories of what could have been. Crystal Pepsi may have vanished, but its legacy lives on in our memories, a reminder of when America was willing to try almost anything once. From Hostess Twinkies that defined a childhood lunchbox, to Doritos that turned every party into a fiesta, from McDonald's MCDLT's quirky hot and cold experiment, to Jell-O pudding pops that melted faster than we could eat them, and finally, Crystal Pepsi, the soda that promised a future but disappeared almost overnight. These junk foods weren't just snacks. They were cultural moments, snapshots of an America chasing joy, convenience, and sometimes even a little bit of magic. They remind us that food isn't just about taste, it's about memory, about gathering around the television with friends, unwrapping a brightly colored package at lunch, or sipping something new that made us feel like we were part of the future. And while many of these products have disappeared from shelves, they still live on in nostalgia, in commercials saved on old VHS tapes, and in the stories we tell about the good old days. In the end, junk food, like music, fashion, and toys, comes and goes. But the feelings it gave us, the laughter it sparked, and the memories it created, those stay forever. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to subscribe and join us as we uncover more forgotten treasures, surprising stories, and nostalgic memories of the America we remember.